Welcome. Today we're exploring one of the most ancient sites in the world. We're starting right here in Kusadasi, Turkey, and heading inland to the legendary city of Ephesus. This was once a powerful Roman city, home to over 250,000 people. As we walk through the marble streets, you will see the Library of Celsus, the great theater, ancient shops, bathhouses, and temples, all still standing nearly at 2,000 years. We are stepping inside the Ephesus 360 Video Museum, located right here on the site, and this immersive dome shows the city as it looked in its prime. Temples restored, streets bustling, and the library shining like new, a perfect way to visualize everything we just walked through. Next, we'll travel up the hills to the House of the Virgin Mary, a peaceful stone chapel believed to be, by many, the final home for Mary. Pilgrims from around the world visit this quiet sanctuary, and the setting alone, surrounded by pine forest, is worth the stop. As we leave, the mountain road opens up into beautiful Aegean countryside and coastal views. Our next stop is a traditional Turkish rug workshop where we see silk cocoons are unraveled into thread and how the artisans hand-knot rugs using techniques passed down for generations. After that, we sit down for an authentic Turkish meal, fresh salads, grilled meats, warm bread, and a local olive oil. A perfect break for the middle of the countryside. Our final and historic stop is the Temple of Artemis, once the seven wonders of the ancient world. Today, only a single reconstructed column remains, but standing here gives you a sense of the scale and importance of this temple once held. So, welcome to Kusadasi. So this is our first time ever in Turkey. On this day we're only going to get to do the one stop, but it's a beautiful day, so I think this is going to be a good day and a good time visiting this city. And here we can see the port up here. After docking in Kusadasi, we clear port security and take a quick walk through the port shops, passing cafes, souvenirs, and local crafts. Just outside the terminal gates, we meet our small group minivan, ready to take us inland toward Ephesus for the start of our day.
From all the way that side, the road, we are entering and we're gonna see all these public buildings, walk to the center of the city where the Library of Celsus is, and then we're gonna see the Agora. The theater is closed, so we are not gonna be entering the theater, but we're gonna see from outside. And then at the end, where you see the harbor street, you see the long street that connects to small water over there. That used to be the old harbor. And then the museum is there, so we're gonna visit there and then exit. So you can see even the public buildings they have discovered is not much. The whole city was very large. It was almost 250,000 people were living it back then. Again, fourth largest city of Roman Empire. It was declared the capital of Asia Minor, capital of Asia, of the Roman Empire. And I don't know if you know, but back then all these goods were coming from the east, like through Silk Road, Silk Road, and Ephesus was in the between. So all these goods were coming through to Europe, had to pass through Ephesus, so they had to stop at the port here. That's why the city flourished, and that's how they made the money. The second major economic income was the Temple of Artemis, which we're going to visit, because from all over the Roman Empire, people would come here to visit the temple for pilgrimage purposes. So then you had a lot of money also coming like that. That was one of the reasons that Ephesus accepted Christianity the latest, because they didn't want to give up the Artemis cult.
is a model of what we're going to be seeing here for Ephesus. It's pretty large. This used to be a very popular and successful port city.
So you're gonna see a lot of Greek letters, some Latin letters, so you can tell that.
Lots of fruit on the way in. We've seen everything from peaches to apricots to olives and lots of other things.
Really, this level.
So Greek says, okay, we have our own goddess of fertility. Her name is Artemis. So we're going to worship on her.
So we're going to see Temple of Artemis, I think a theater, agora, a number of other structures here. So it's similar to some of the other Roman and Greek type of things.
And they didn't only go to that for police, always live in the recreational area, so they have different kind of
So it shows how prosperous it was, because these are like the baths, and they had multiple, and that's not usually the place. They usually have maybe one, but you know, you kind of washed and stuff before you went into the city or the temple areas. So some of the water drainage tiles.
So they carved this letters, and also you see the fish, almost like a fish symbol. So anyone coming from this side would see this sign, or you also see some of these signs in front of some of the shops, like hidden a little bit. So whenever someone comes and see this sign, they knew that there was someone Christian there. The reason there is the fish, you know, because Jesus was a fisherman. And the other thing is, here the letters is actually Greek. It's the initial letters of the Greek wording. It says that Jesus Christ, the Savior and the God of Son. So when you write that in Greek, I don't speak Greek, but when you write that in Greek, the capital letters would be I, X, P, and then whenever you see these letters, is also meaning that there was someone Christian in that. But this is considered one of the earliest signs of Christianity, even before cross.
So this is the agora. It was right across from the Parliament building here. So that's right here behind me. So this is kind of like where people would hang out right outside the temple area. So you can see it still has some of the Greek style, but some of the differences is where it has the flowery tops on it. So you can see some of them are from here specifically versus like the Greek.
In the downtown. Let's go to the terrace. Take some pictures. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Artemis. Who was Artemis? Why she was important for the people here? As you know, people were pagans back then before Christianity arrived. And the Artemis built it.
هو انطفت الشركة الثانية.
Structure that was actually the ruins of Temple of Artemis. The reason about that temple it was the first one that ever built for a Roman emperor. Unfortunately, we don't get to visit the temple anymore, but it was the first one that was dedicated to a Roman emperor. And after him, Roman emperors started to build. They started to have the title of God, like almost half God, so they started building their own temples throughout the Roman Empire. And the other structure that you see behind is one of the water fountains that we saw those pipes at the beginning, and I talked about the aqueducts, the fresh water was running throughout the city. However, if you are a common people, if you don't have your own bath or anything in your house, you would have to go to these fountains to collect the water. So that's one of the fountains. There are 3 of them. That's reconstructed. You can see super white, so I don't like that one. The other one I'm gonna show you in a second. That's more nicer. The thing that people are taking a photo is the goddess of victory, Nike. The shoe brand Nike comes from her. You can see even like almost like a trick or treat. But this was actually located on top of the Hercules gate, which we're gonna see in a minute. So behind it, where people were passing these streets, is the gate of Hercules. After this, the street was open. Horses were allowed to pass. The reason people are going through that the Hercules gate, where I don't know if you know the mythology, but Hercules, he was the unwanted son of Zeus. He was half god and half mortal, and because it was Zeus' son from someone else, Hera cursed the poor guy, and then he gave him 12 missions. She gave him 12 missions to complete all his lifetime, and one of the missions was killing the Nemean lion. And in the left, we can see it more clearly that he actually killed the lion and put the lion skin in his shoulder, or the body of the lion. The reason we have this here because Hercules was very honest man, and people loved here Hercules, and because this was a merchant city, they did a lot of trades. People believe that if you pass through that gate, you're going to be an honest trader, you're going to be doing your business properly. That's why we have Hercules gate here, and then the Nike sign you saw that is supposed to be on top of it. Okay, and this is the main street of the city. The Anyway, on the right and left, you're going to see the shops, small shops of the city, and then we are actually walking towards the Library of Celsus. I'm sure when you see the photos at Ephesus, you saw that library, so that's going to be our highlight. But we're going to continue walking. If you have any questions, again, please.
Statues of the people were half of the study. For example, the very first headless statue used to belong to a physician. We don't know what it is done, but we know
Huge statue was sitting on a global.
This is the emperor. Whenever emperor visited a city, they dedicated something for his name. So they dedicated this fountain for his name. We also have another temple we're going to be dedicated to the emperor. But unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, there was no like eruption in Ephesus, so we didn't have everything covered under ash. You know, it was not protected. And then we have a lot of earthquakes here, so everything shakes. And then other issue with this ancient site, when the city dies, people start reusing the material to construct other things. Instead of going to the marble mine and digging the marble, you know, shaping it, they just take it from here and use it in their house or whatever. So that's why there was not much left from this fountain for archaeologists to reconstruct it, but it was actually two-floor fountain. In the front you can see the water basin where the fresh water would run endlessly, and if you're a regular person, you would just put your bucket, pull it up, and you get your water. You can even see some of the decaying on the marble. In here, behind there was a large pool and all the statues all around. It was more like a decoration purposes, but the main purpose of this was to bring fresh water to people, because we're gonna see the villas in a minute. If you're not living in a villa, you would get your water from here.
And then we just run down from the hill. Is that where the water is coming from? It's just running down from the hill for the fresh water?
No, the fresh water would run from here through the pipes. We saw the pipes at the beginning. The aqueducts were located outside of the city, so they would come from the mountain, you know, with the engineering techniques, like it would come, and then it would run all the way here, and then probably goes to the sea. But the back of it was for decoration.
Yeah.
With the 2 feet and the globe has been put back to the original. The globe over there symbolizes the return, symbolizes the word. When posed in the
First one, first lady. Look at the art, look at the
Right over here, take a look, Temple of Artemis, from 2nd century. When they visited the city,
I don't want to get near a picture.
and this temple
on the middle back, you see the outside of the lake, but with the invasions and everything on the Medusa city, there was the Roman stuff.
I think we're heading over to the public bath next.
The reason they had this mosaic, because it was believed this shop, the shops in the front, were the most expensive shops of the whole city. Like you can think of like a Gucci or Louis Vuitton that we have it today. Because we don't see this mosaic. Yes, marble is expensive, but mosaic work is a little bit more tedious. So you have this here. The front part of these houses were again shops, and the behind the owner were living. If he runs the shop, you know, he would sit right behind, or he could rent this house. But anyway, we're in the public bathroom, Latrina, it's called. As I mentioned earlier, if you're not living in one of those villas, your house is only like a small room that you go for sleeping purposes. Other things like cooking, they would be outside. The toilet, they would go outside. The bathroom, actually working, you would only go to your house to sleep. So this was one of the public bathrooms. This was only for men.
Not a lot of privacy on these toilets. But but I heard the word socialize quite a bit. I guess because of the public bath. This was a pay area, so it's kind of just the upper class that came in here.
This is the Library of Celsus. Celsus was the governor of Ephesus. He was a very loved man, but when he died, his son wanted to build a funeral, like a tomb for his father. But back then laws were super strict. It was located like everywhere in the city, a written form that it was not allowed to build any tomb inside the center of the city. So you have to do it outside of the city wall. So what this son did, he built a library for the people of the city, and he put his father's funeral inside the library. So when you enter, you're going to see a latrina, like a tomb. So that belongs to the governor Celsus with the name of the library. What's important about this library is the third largest library in ancient Rome.
This is the library. Used to be 3 floors. They've had to section it all back together, so it's 2. So let's go see if we can check out a book. Yep, not many scrolls in here to check out right now. They said the top part where it was wood, you know, obviously they kind of faded away, and that's what let a lot of the rest of it kind of fall apart. So it's amazing that they were able to piece together this much of it. It looks really nice. This is much more than what I expected. A lot of the Greek ruins, what we were seeing, there was not much left of it. So this one is quite impressive. And you've got all these little history things that's here all around the side. So these are pretty nice to kind of explain what you're looking at. You can find all kinds of people hanging out here at the library. All right, well, I want to go down and get just a little bit more of this little courtyard area with the arches right here in front of the library. Oh, it is a large step.
But there were lots of missing parts, so they had to fill in the gaps with
If you caught this coming down the main alleyway here, that was to come in on the shops. It was assumed if you came in between the lions that you were a reputable dealer, and so if you walked through those gates, I guess they held you to a higher standard. And obviously they made it a way that you couldn't really go around it, but it's just an interesting piece of history that, you know, you're going to be reputable on your shops here and give fair deals if you came through those. Oh yeah, we did not walk through the gates, so you know. Alright, so we're going through the little Agora area and we're going to go out to the new museum, air conditioned.
Almost 200 shops were located side by side of this place. The center of it was empty like this. And you're actually looking right behind the port I showed you earlier. The reason they built this agora right here is because they were able to bring all the goods and merchants easier to this area. You can think of a modern day mall, you know, where would you get your bread, wine, clothes, jewelry, whatever you can think of. And as, again, I said, people were not spending much of their time in their houses. So if you are not working, or if you are not in the bath or in the theater, you would be hang out in this area. As I mentioned, people didn't know how to read or write. That was, you know, most of the people didn't know. And the shops, all of them had some type of label on them, like a sign. But they would also have, behind it, they would also have some type of depictions of what they were selling. So, for example, you see the wheat sleeve over there. It means it was probably a bakery or bread shop. And then you see here like a wine. So probably this was belonged to a wine shop. And then you see the lamps here. It was probably a leather shop, because in this region the leather and the manufacturing of leather, you know, the sandals, the horse gear and everything, it was also gladiators. We also had gladiators, so they was built here, so that belongs to them. As you walk, you're going to see how small these shops were. It's not as the shops we are used to it. You know, it's just small shop. You just enter, purchase what you need. You don't really spend hours on that. And then whenever you see, if you ever go another Greek or Roman city in the future, whenever you see the columns like this side by side, always imagine it had a wooden roof and it was provided some type of shade for people that were shopping and walking.
just a little bit. So it was like a big main road that they came up, and the first thing they see is this big open great theater. And this was the area where they had the gladiators over here. So it was probably quite impressive for foreigners to be able to come in here off of the water and see all this. It says the Artemis Museum was so great it was considered one of the 7 wonders of the world. And now we're proceeding on to the Roman era. Considered so special that it was only second to Rome. Doing a man-made god. That was kind of the start of Christianity in this area. So essentially the Ephesus people picked up and left, and then this is where the story continues here. So I'd heard some things about this museum. It's not the type of museum that you think or you go in and to see artifacts. It is a visual, audio. I liked it. It kind of told the history of the area. So for me, and it was a nice break in the air condition, so that was neat.
Arkada kimse kalmasın.
So there is a little 3-minute film that's over on the left side before you enter into the museum. It kind of gives it an overview, but it also kind of reconstructs part of this shop area here, this main alleyway that comes up from the water to the theater. That is worth watching, particularly for a quick break. It's only 3 minutes as mentioned, but now just to kind of come down here and walk on this, it's just kind of like a wow thing.
Now we're gonna visit Mary's house. There are two beliefs where Mary died. Most Jews believe that she died in Jerusalem. The second opinion is she came here with St. John and died in Ephesus. Mostly Orthodox Christians believe that. They even see the Mary house as pilgrimage place, so they come and pray. I go with the second option because the reason St. John wrote all those letters, the proof, it's written proof.
I wanna hear this.
Driving up that mountain toward Mary's house, the road starts to tighten, pine trees start to line the landscape, and the whole place starts to feel a little wild and remote. Then you hit the entrance, and there it is, a wild boar sign warning that just feels really out of place.
So right now we are heading up toward Mary's house, and I think you can only take pictures outside here, so we'll get a few of those, but I don't think you can take anything inside. It is quite the long line if you're wanting to go inside the house, but you can come here. It's kind of like it makes a loop. So you can sort of come up here to the right side if you're just wanting to see the outside. It seems like still a lot of the tour groups from the cruise ships come here, so they really keep that line pretty full. I think it was 15 euros, 10 or 15 euros to get in. So this is kind of way up on a hill, so it's kind of not thought, if Mary lived here, that it was full time, but definitely part of the time, and I think it was maybe up to 11 years and possibly even passed away here. This says it's a cistern that was here.
You can still see the pipe.
It's still got money into it, like it's a wishing well. So this is kind of way up on a mountain area. It would be hard to imagine that somebody lived out here like this. You know, particularly maybe by themselves or anything like that. So I will try to get some of the scenery here just so you can see what it looks like. You can see the entire harbor area there, and still some of the little towns or villages. But this is a pretty high elevation area. It's beautiful, but it is remote.
And we also have the remaining altar over there where they would have sacrifices for Artemis, or in special days like the birthday of Artemis, they would put their fruit, animal sacrifices over there. It was just a Doric design temple, just column, and then in the middle you would have the statue, big statue of statue of Artemis. It is believed it was wood, but maybe the head, only the head, and the hands and the legs were marble, but the remaining was wood because it was very big, and then time to time they had to carry it out and carry it, so it was easier that way. But the small figurines or small statues were full in marble. Another thing about this area is also called British Dig, because British archaeologists dig this place. They found it during World War I era, so Ottoman Empire was collapsing, so we didn't really pay much attention to it. But most of the things we found in here, also in Ephesus, now you can find it in the British Archaeological Museum if you ever go. I never been, but there's a lot of artifacts from this area. One of the things they found was the column base of one of these columns with engravings on it, and it's in the British Archaeological Museum. The interesting thing about that column base is it's so large, so I watched some YouTube videos about it. If you have time, you can see it. It's so big that you cannot even grab it with your both hands. It's that massive. Because when you look at from here, maybe the column doesn't look that big, but look at the people, how small they are. They don't even make it to the column. So it's so large, so massive. This was also the first example of a bank. How you might think what bank related is this. As you remember, in Ephesus, there were a lot of money going on, merchants and everything. So in a time of invasion or war, these temples were sacred place, so the invaders or people wouldn't touch it. So people, all those merchants would give their gold and goods to here to priests, and underneath the Temple of Ephesus they would keep it for a small fee, and that's how they would keep it safe. The video you saw in the museum, you saw the temple is burning. It's actually temple burned. This temple burned like several times. It collapsed. They reconstructed several times. But the story that you watched was one crazy man wanted to write his name to the history, so he burned the whole temple. And then when they asked why Artemis was not here to protect the temple, the Ephesians believed that that was the exact night where Alexander the Great was born in Macedonia, so that's why Artemis went to Macedonia to help the birth of Alexander the Great. So that baby boy they were carrying in is actually Alexander the Great. You know, some even see him as a god. So that's the story on there. As I mentioned, with the Christianity arrived, they didn't want anything related to Artemis. Normally, you know, they turn these temples to church, or they kind of maintain some part of it. But in this example, they didn't want any part of it, so it just got ruined. Some of the columns were reused in the nearby monuments, so they were not able to reconstruct it. The ground up here, again, very soft. So actually, logically, this was not a logical place to build this massive temple. It collapsed multiple times, but anyway, it was still one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. In the behind, you see a castle. That's the Turkish castle, belonged to 13th century. When Seljuk Turks arrived here, they built that castle. Turkish castles will be gonna different from the European castle. It's just like a fortification wall. Inside there is nothing really. You just put your soldiers there so they can see if anyone's coming. Unfortunately. And in the front there is again mosque, belongs to again 13th century era, 14th century. That mosque is a little interesting because you see Hellenistic columns inside that the Turks used, so they just found the column and they're like, okay, let's use it in the in the mosque. And behind, you don't see it much, but maybe when we move a little bit, behind that tree you're gonna see some columns. That's the ruins of St. John Basilica. As I mentioned, St. John was here.
So I do have a fella here. You can hear the flute in the back. He said, I make these, and it's out of olive trees. So they are kind of neat, and it is a handmade. Other folks have these overlay books. Actually, it would be a nice collector item, but of course, you know, we're one bag traveling, we can't take a whole book. But anyway, there's lots of those there if you do want something like that as a souvenir. And these are some of the largest columns that are around. I think they called them Doric. So this is where the temple was. It's not much to see, but it used to be, because this is practically like one of the 7 wonders of the world, like the place to bring your money if you're like keeping it, and they would put it down here in the bottom of the temple area and keep it safe for you. So you know, this was kind of the center of commerce, to have an area where you can go ahead and store your money that you made here from the wealthy part of being on the harbor, and trade and everything that's in this area. I didn't really catch the history on the castle that's up the hill here. It's obviously not part of this, but they said it's basically just kind of a fortress area. It was meant to just kind of hold that area, you know, to station guards around the outside. So it's a little bit different of a castle. I'll see if I can pan up around that and show you what it looks like, but it's not really part of this area. It's from a different era.
Ja, ja, natürlich. Aber natürlich schön, ja. Warum nicht? Ja, darum. Look. You see? You can touch them if you like. Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot.
Look. You see? You can touch them if you like. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful.
Wow.
And they will carry on this till they're finished. Okay. For example, this is a hot. This is finished, you know.
All right, we happen to be right beside the Odyssey of the Seas, so just kind of compare the brilliance to the Odyssey. The size difference is like, it feels like double. Like the Odyssey of the Seas is a massive ship. But I will say, the Brilliance of the Seas, you know, they've redone The rooms and the bedrooms and things are very nice. They're comfortable, and the ship has been an amazing ship as far as just being able to get to new destinations and things like that. So we've really enjoyed our time here on the Brilliance, but the Odyssey it's just incredible. So it's neat to see both.